Hello everyone, welcome to Discussing Tabletop for February 24th, 2018. How is everyone doing today? I hope you're having a great day. We're all bringing you the latest in the tabletop news from the world of, well, tabletop. Kind of obvious there. If it wasn't, then it would be a weird day anyway.
From the world of imagination.
Imagination. Anyway, joining me as usual is...
Wyrm, your name has changed.
Joe and Wyrm.
No, I think it's just a new language.
I was gonna say, was that his name in Klingon?
Yes, sure. You
just said gah, 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 which would be gah. So you just said a type of food several times over.
No, one of them was different.
Bad nerd. Bad nerd.
Anyway, so on the docket for today, we're going to be talking about Way of the Fighter, the two versions of it. Tavern Masters, which is a different take on the entire Adventure Visits a Tavern type of game. I want to dive into a little bit about what information we've seen about Magic Gathering Dominiria, and I want to talk especially with Joe, about what we want to see returning to this place, that we haven't seen for like a decade. Eldritch Horror, its current expansions, I want to talk about that. And then Banestorm Gurps, but we might switch the Eldritch Horror and the Banestorm Gurps, because just to make sure we get the Banestorm at least. Because we skipped that from last week. That was a push from last week. And then if we have some time, we'll move into talk a little bit about semi-collectable cards. I want to talk about some of our thoughts on them as I've been continuing to see their kind of evolution. And then our regular segments, Kickstarter Korner, Our Week in Tabletop, and Consult the Table. Alright, so why don't we, of course, start with Way of the Fighter, because it is a Kickstarter that was successful, that is out in a formal release now. And from what I've seen, there are two versions of Way of the Fighter that are out, Super and Turbo. It really seems the only difference between the two of them, the fighters you get.
Can I combine them and have Super Turbo?
I guess you could. That's what I was thinking about with this. Couldn't you just combine them and have, like, 10 fighters instead of 5?
Super Turbo.
Super Turbo! Awesome, activate!
And I love Wyrm's reaction.
that was really the perfect response to our
ridiculousness.
Yes. We were a little bit of
Turbo.
So Way of the Fighter, to characterize it a little bit.
Oh, wait. This is blue dice versus green dice.
Oh.
Six.
Jeez.
Oh, 6. So, because the first one has 6 red power dice and 6 blue power dice, and this one has, and then Turbo has 6 orange power dice and 6 green power dice.
Oh, man.
Oh.
Different
So
colors.
different.
Yeah, so very different.
Now, is it the same price?
Probably. Let me find out for sure. If I can find easily, which they're not making it easy to find.
Way of the Fighter is $35.99 for the Super.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the Turbo yet.
So I think they're the exact same price, as far as I know.
Okay.
But I was going to say something. Anyway, the
No,
game itself, if you wish to know a little bit about it, it is effectively a board game that would best be described as a fighting game in board game format.
Okay, on Amazon, they're both $70.
Together?
$69.99 each.
That seems expensive.
It does.
Yeah.
Is there anything special with those ones up on Amazon?
There's only 2
Amazon
left.
costs.
I mean, yes, but I'm assuming
There's only 2 left.
okay, up on their website, they're going for $49.99.
That's $20 cheaper.
Yes. unless they've like somehow like sold out of their current shipment and they're just jumping up. But it says availability in stock for both of them.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I think it's probably just has to do with
They're selling through a retailer, so it's going to be more expensive than buying directly from the company.
Yep.
Now it does look like that it's normally a 2-player game, but you could do it like a 4-player tag team kind of thing, which I mean is fine. That makes it feel very fighting game that you could have like 4 players, but like 2 at a time fighting. You know, I think there's been some fighting games that have had things like that in the past anyway. So neat, and yes, it is definitely. It's meant to be arcade style, and it looks a lot like Street Fighter. They're really taking a lot of their aesthetics from Street Fighter with making their own thing, but it looks a lot like it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I look at this and I'm like, is this Street Fighter, the board game? And his answer is no.
Yes.
Yes.
Except, like, apparently Turbo has some kind of, like, voodoo chick on it or something. I'm sorry, voodoo woman.
I don't see how this is still different from Street Fighter. They have weird stuff, too.
Yeah.
They have Dalzim, who's a terrible Indian stereotype. I mean, well, I guess he's not as bad as it could
He's
be.
a yoga master, which doesn't have anything to do with fighting.
But apparently it gives him flame powers and stretchy arms.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Don't let them know.
Don't tell them.
I like how like they mention the names of these fighters, and I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Ren.
Or over on the Turbo side, Lumi. Who's Lumi?
Lumi's Lumi. Do you have a problem with Lumi?
I have no problem with Lumi. I'm just saying it's that like their reasoning behind, you know,
El Falcon.
Is there an El Falcon? There is
Super.
El Falcon. El
El
Falcon.
Oh.
Did you just do French for a guy's props in
Yes.
Spanish?
He's half Spanish, half French.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No, I don't think anybody knew that. Because he's El Falcon. No.
There's Albertus. It looks like he's a bit of a hunchback.
But no, as I was trying to say here, El Falcon.
And Aurelia, who looks like she's part genie.
Okay, so El Falcon is a luchador. Wow, you can actually look up some of this stuff.
You can see that by the picture of him.
I can't actually find like where to buy it from their website.
It was hard to find. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, because it seems like it's like I saw something that's like pre-order but not buying it. But
Yeah.
it seems like it's buyable on Amazon, so
okay.
I don't know.
It's not directly from. I go to Soda Pop Miniatures.
Oh wait, there it is. Yeah, $49.99.
And then under new releases. Yeah.
Now, does that come with the standees, or is that the one that comes with the superior miniatures?
I actually don't know. It doesn't talk about that.
Because they have the super miniatures pack.
Uh-huh.
Which actually then comes with actual miniatures. Otherwise, it's just papers. It's just cardboard standees.
I'm guessing this is probably more the cardboard standees.
So I wonder if the Amazon one is actually coming with with the
Advanced
miniatures.
One? Yeah, maybe.
That would also be a different in price, or it could, like I said, it could just be that, hey, you're buying through a retailer instead of direct wholesaler.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they are doing something with that make it a little bit more appealing, kind of thing.
Yeah. It could also be that, like I said, there's buying through a wholesaler, and since Amazon can get, you're more likely to find it probably on Amazon by just, searching through games and stuff.
Yeah.
It's worth having it on there.
And you can check out some of the fighters, even though it's kind of hard to, like, they don't have all of them. And Deshawn is basically Jax.
Dijon?
Dijon. He's a
That's what
mustard.
I'm saying.
I
He's
know.
mustard.
Okay, but getting
I
away
relish the experience to fight with Dijon.
Yeah, God. Getting away from the entire, like, silliness of, yes, it's Street Fighter, the board game kind of thing, without being actual Street Fighter, as we said, and it does look a very interesting take on it. That, like, I know I've seen some weird board games, but weird as a subjective terms. Like, I would say, not maybe weird's not the right word. Unique and unusual. That's probably what I would say. Like those racing board games. So a fighting game as a board game, it seems like they've pulled it off decently. But again, like, I guess unless we would actually, like, dive in and be able to play it ourselves, it's hard to say.
Yeah, let's be real. Anything can really be a board game if you try hard enough.
Accurate, yes. Again, it's like, just because it can be a board game doesn't mean it should be a board game also.
Okay,
yeah.
You can get it on Amazon for $49.99, but then it's a $13.99 shipping price.
Ooh.
That's it. In fact, I bet anything there's probably shipping on here, but it just doesn't say it right away on the top. Amazon says it on the top.
I'm sure, yeah.
You can get but for $69.99, it's Prime shipping.
Mm-hmm. So definitely some info there that's to talk about. So, I mean, think about it this way. If you want to wait for it to be at a store, $50. Kind of like, you could probably get it for around. For each of them, though. So that is something else to think about. It is technically for each of them.
Yes, but it's kind of, you can consider one an expansion of the other.
Yeah, and both of them add to the list of fighters, so I can see them getting more of them eventually, which is not a bad thing. Like, more fighters with more expansions, so to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, though, is that, like, there's kind of like a, like, whether the blue and orange, or the blue, red, and versus green and orange thing seems to have a little bit to do with the map it's on as well, which is kind of interesting. I'm not entirely sure why.
Well, maybe because
color-coded.
I'm guessing, like, when we go back at Street Fighter, that the characters are supposed to be different areas of the world. Maybe they're just trying to use that to split up the world a little bit or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
So, like, this is this sort of global group, and this is this sort of global group, and we can call it a day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's definitely an interesting thought to it. I mean, I'm just going to kind of keep it simple with this one at this point in time, because I don't know. It's a successful Kickstarter. Good for them. Excellent for them. Love to see those. We love to see, like, it proves that, for every unsuccessful one, we have plenty of successful ones, and I'm glad that's more the case, There's plenty of horror stories, but a good, successful Kickstarter is always wonderful. It's an interesting type of game, definitely, with the fighting game mechanics where you have to use, like, cards to, like, sort of, like, counter moves to each other and, like, move each other around to, like, sort of, so it's like a kind of card management game with your own decks, which is kind of interesting.
The one thing I am not liking is, for some reason, like, when you look at the descriptions of the characters printed out, O's and U's they have underlined, and that letter is smaller.
Okay.
And it makes it really weird to read. Because I'm like, what? Sociable, brash, and fiery taijutsu student. Out of my way.
Okay.
Or you'll get burned.
Okay.
That's red. But
Okay.
with how they have, like, or, it looks more like 2R. because the O is so small and there's an underline of it, it looks more like a 2.
He's a taijutsu student?
Yes.
Huh.
Ren is a taijutsu student.
So that doesn't seem appropriate, but whatever.
June is an agile, competitive, and quick schoolgirl.
Yes, I noticed there's the schoolgirl on the super board.
Yes.
There's a luchador, a taijutsu dude, the schoolgirl, there's a psychic woman, the voodoo master, I
don't know who the big burly guy is. He looks Russian.
Probably Russian. You have to replace Zangief with something.
His name is Albertus.
Oh, he might be Canadian.
Alberdus. But no, I mean, he's wearing a kilt.
Oh, he's Scottish?
He's wearing a weird kilt, though. And he has, like, half a lion's fur on his back.
I don't know what nationality he's supposed to be. All of them.
But he's so muscular, he almost looks like he's a hunchback.
He's supposed to be all the nationalities.
And he's wearing, like, Roman-looking boots.
Maybe he's actually just Roman.
And Ariella looks like she's just like a genie.
Ariella, is that the one in red?
No, she's in green and purple.
Oh, yeah, the green and purple. Oh, yeah, I see her there.
She looks like a genie.
Yeah. My niece would love her then. She loves
genies?
Yes, she loves the one genie cartoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, her butt looks like it's about to fall out of the pants.
Well, judging this sort of thing, it probably is.
Is that part of the distraction fighting?
Sure. Butt fighting. Okay.
Your niece must have loved watching you play Shantae then.
She did ask questions about Shantae a whole bunch of times. But I don't think it was as good a genie because, didn't grant wishes.
Oh, fair.
Well, like, whatever. Anyway, so, Way of the Fighter, unusual fighters, a great cast of, well, we'll say unusual cast of characters because it is a very Street Fighter cast of characters, which are always also unusual. Anyway, you can enjoy the big guy with the kilt and lion on his back, who's Scottish, Russian, Roman?
Because he has Roman boots.
Yeah. Scott Romission. I don't know. He might just...
Well, his face looks Russian.
Mm-hmm. He could probably be just, actually, Roman.
Yeah.
Friends, Romans, countrymen. I said that
I'm gonna
twice.
cut off your ears.
Cut off your gears?
Ears.
Oh.
Not your gears.
It calls it orange, but looking at this, it's more like yellow.
I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, the red's more like a salmon.
No. Whatever.
Now we're getting really weird and nitpicky. So why don't we move on?
Sorry, yeah. I'm just looking around at it.
Salmon.
We've gone to a weird place with this one, so I'm thinking we should move on. It's probably for the better before the insanity continues. All right, let's move on.
We love insanity.
Yeah. So, Way of the Fighter available now. You can check it out. I found an easy link to the thing on Soda Pop Miniatures, but also you can find some links in Ninja Division. Those are the two, I guess, companies that work together to provide it to you. Anyway, let's talk about Tavern Masters, because that is another one that has been released. So, Tavern Masters. It's an interesting game because it's a tavern building game. That's you stock your taverns to draw new patrons each round, giving them regulars, while giving regulars the elements which they enjoy. You buy drinks, hire barmaids, minstrels, serve mutton and crusty bread, and you can welcome the patrons in both lowly and noble to earn gold each round.
Okay, I'm looking at the cards. Some of this is really funny. Mm-hmm. Here's two patrons. There's a pit fighter and a warrior maiden. Mm-hmm. The pit fighter wants wine. The warrior maiden wants ale. I think that should be reversed.
I could see.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking if you're thinking about a pit fighter, you're probably going to think, more basic want. Where with a warrior maiden, you're thinking probably she's a little higher. I would go for the wine.
I understand what you're saying, but I can definitely see it the way that they've put it together.
I also love that Stinky Cheese lets you play noble patrons.
Yes.
I like how you get like it's like luscious tart or something like that.
Yeah.
As the person, and it's like seductive looking woman, and so like the ability is you can keep one patron in your tavern at the end of your turn or whatever. It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, you tart, good work keeping the patrons in. I feel like just talking like that now whenever I'm like, being the tavern master, like.
She's a waitress with excellent service.
And you can always get a dwarf barkeep because always great. The
she
elven
costs
barmaid.
3, or if you or you can play her if you have mutton. And the dwarf costs 2, or if you have dwarven mead, he's free.
Nice. Anyway, so it is 1 to 6 players, which I find interesting. Which I'm guessing because it's the most money. That like the 1 player would be a format where you're trying to get the best. Like you're almost playing against yourself from the last time you played, kind of thing. Or like you have like specific, kind of goals. But then you can get up to 6 players, 20 or 30 minutes. It's a relatively simple in the concept game just by talking about it. I mean, the actual diving into the actual rules, the rules are also not difficult.
Oh, there is trading too between players. Mm-hmm. You're like, I have some stinky cheese. Does anyone have a tart?
Okay. Oh yeah, the single player is a challenge. Okay, good. Shuffle decks take gold. Player who most recently bought a drink at a bar or tavern begins the game as the first server. Server refers that to affording cards. I mean the.
Well, it looks like I'm never going first.
Me either.
I probably would go first.
Actually, wait. It doesn't say alcoholic. I would be the one to probably go. The place I go to trivia almost weekly is called the Smokehouse Tavern. And I get iced tea there.
Yeah, I just don't go to bars or taverns.
It's not a very seedy place, so I like going there. It is very got your bar area, and then you got a bunch of
It's a sports bar.
See, the problem is bars require socializing.
I socialize with one person there, and that's it.
See, but you go there to socialize. With
James, who I stream with occasionally. So.
I know. I'm just messing around, but yeah, no, it's just like I'm like way on the introverted end. You wouldn't know it by talking to me, but I am like.
No, I understand
99.
that. I do not like talking to people there. It's sort of like, hi waitress, bye waitress, thank you, got me a drink, we're good to go.
I'm the only extrovert here.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Accurate. But anyway, so I do like it as a different kind of the traditional adventuring fantasy games that are bar based seem to be more Red Dragon Inn, which is we're all drinking here and we're all the adventurers, and last one standing kind of wins. I like how this is a different take on it, that it's like, you're running an inn for those type of folks, but also for rich patrons and stuff like that too.
Who like sticky cheese and mutton.
Yes. But how much mutton? How much mutton?
Mutton is as much mutton as a mutton can munch.
I was trying to do the exact same thing and it was not working.
Yes. I was stumbling for there for a second too. Now the question is, are you going to get a dartboard or a chessboard?
Ooh. I'm guessing chessboard would be more nobles than a dartboard, which would be for those lowly commoners and their dots.
So you're gonna be
That
sipping
is-
sticky cheese.
Oh my gosh, that is so meta. Meta. One of the cards is Tavern Master's Board Game. You gain 1 additional gold from each round from patrons in your tavern who like gambling or who like dice or whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
That's hilarious. That is so meta.
I like it when they do little things like that for these games. It's very nice. But anyway, so yeah, I think this is a very interesting game just because of the, you know, as I said, the basic concept of it.
Ooh,
is
they
a
have
little
sabotage cards. One of them is called a bag of rats.
I throw a bag of rats, and the other person's like, "Yeah, that seems accurate."
And the other person's in.
Yeah, you're like, "Rats!"
Oh dear.
Ah,
That's my fun
rats.
game.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's one of the ones I would like checking out, and it's another one that's a successful Kickstarter that's kind of popped in, which again I think that's a good theme, I guess, for a couple of these things this week is successful Kickstarter.
You know what I have to say?
What?
You got rats in my mutton. You
Yes.
got mutton in my rats.
Let's see here, and if you're playing single player, or you can play as an alternate mode with multiple players, you can do the challenge level, which you play it for a number of rounds, and anybody gets 20 golds after a number of rounds wins. And the most difficult seems to be wasted, which is 2 rounds to get 20 gold.
Wow.
Okay, that's why it's a challenge.
How wasted are you?
How wasted are you? And apparently they have the Dirty Deeds expansion and counting the till phase, or like their Dirty Deeds expansion is something. So
Are they
I
done dirt cheap?
probably because they
Or
have
are they done with sheep?
They have Dirty Deeds is the currently expansion. They have a Game of Chance mini expansion, the King's Treasury Monokoi set, and they're playing at Dockside and Innkeepers expansions for the rest of the year. Which thing is, since this is coming out like now, I don't think they've updated some of their website too. Anyway, probably, but still, the art looks cool too. I like the art style. It's a very interesting, like it's a very simple, you know, art style, but very nice.
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Pack of rats. So I definitely think this is an interesting one that I would like to see where they can kind of go with their expansions, and I would like to actually try it out too. So
Your sticky cheese attracted some rats.
yes, and your mutton, which allows you to play mobile patrons also.
Yes.
Which didn't I have a character that hit someone with mutton a couple of times?
Yes, I believe you did.
Yeah. The one time it was just on chance because I had some mutton. After that, it became a joke. That
You're
whenever I get
muttoning
mutton,
around.
I would beat someone with it. Mm-hmm.
Stop muttoning around.
Stop muttoning around. Alright, so yes, Tavern Master is also out. Both of these games, as I said, successful Kickstarters. I would recommend you checking them out. They both look very interesting takes on some board games. Now, I did want to do a little bit of talking with Joe about Dominaria in Magic the Gathering, in particular. Because I know, Joe, you're probably the one in particular that would be best to discuss this with.
I will warn you, I forget what cards were originally in
Well, I
in
mean,
the older set.
we can talk about a little bit of what I've heard. So
Okay.
we know from some artwork, we're going to see Karn again, who we haven't seen since Scars of Mirrodin. Karn! Our good old Golem Planeswalker friend. We're going to see Teferi, who I always liked as a character, but, you know, him and his phasing. So will we have phasing again?
Oh god, no more phasing. I hate phasing.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to have phasing. Maybe they'll have something that'll replace phasing and function in its same place.
Phasing.
Phasing. And it does look like they have Joyra, which I only know a little bit about. And I think they've hinted at, like, the Weatherlight existing again, or the replacement to the Weatherlight, I guess it was.
I want phasing. It has to have Fozzie Bear.
Phasing would be an interesting one. Weird, but interesting.
It's telling bad jokes.
Oh, no. we'd never hear the end of it. No. I made my joke to go along with you, but after that, it's sort of like, nah, we're good. We're good. No. Too bad. I mean, there are certain things that I kind of feel like we might see slivers because they were on Dominiria at one point in time, especially during time shift. The time spiral block did that.
Slivers were so gross originally.
I know. But they're really only planning one set for the storylines. The question
Well, they
is,
also tamed the slivers down a bit the last time they set them out.
Yeah, I mean, by the time they got to the core sets doing slivers, they definitely tamed them down a little bit.
Yeah. Which was probably for the best.
I'm curious, like, what will they take this on, like, a tour of how things are currently in Dominiria? Because they only have one set to tell the story, or like, are we just like kind of like hinting again on like one area, an old area, a new area? As more of a classic player like myself, what kind of things would you like to see? First off, story wise, and second off, mechanics, and I'll kind of answer that myself then too. Unless you want me to go first.
I never really got into the stories as much. So that would be more your
okay, that's fine.
Your side of things. Yeah. Mechanics, I hope they don't bring back phasing. I hope they don't bring back phasing. I hope they don't bring back phasing.
Look, it wasn't that bad.
It was just annoying.
It was complex.
Now you see me, now you don't.
In the terrible movies?
Yes. And phasing. They were actually phasing creatures in the movies.
Oh, Jesus. That explains a lot.
I wouldn't mind seeing slivers again.
Yeah, I mean, I always like them. As a sliver deck user, I definitely would like to see more of them. Though, I'm not sure if we will necessarily, because it's like, we have seen... Do they want to, like, stick with coming back to, like, this here where we're at? Or will they try to get something a little bit more, I guess the word for it would be ancient?
Ancient.
Classic. Classic's a better word, I guess.
Like an ancient evil. It might be artifact heavy with, what's his name coming back?
Yeah, with Karn being apparently in it, we might see a bunch of artifacts too. I mean, but I would feel like with Karn coming back, that also might mean they might decide to revisit Mirrodin.
True.
With what the heck's been going on with, New Phyrexia, as it's called now.
Yes.
Yeah, they had a bad time. It was certainly not a good time. Because they were not letting the good times roll. Anyway.
Let the good times roll.
I had to make a musical joke. It's sort of like with my Enter the Gungeon episodes. I did one by chance randomly, and now I've decided that every time I title an episode in that, it'll be after a Guns N' Roses song.
Welcome to the jungle.
That's the first one I did. They've got fun and guns. That was the first episode I did, so now it's officially a thing. Anyway, getting distracted. I think I wouldn't mind seeing something replacing phasing. Just something that replaces it, because we really saw a little bit of it in Time Shift, the time shifted block, but really it was only a big hitter since the Mirage block. God, I'm forgetful. I would like to see that new mechanic. I guess we won't see like a lot of mechanics based around Time Spiral, unfortunately, since they're supposed to have fixed that problem. But it would be cool to see some things related to it. I'm not going to deny that. So there's definitely a couple of things that I would say like would be very cool to see. Will we see them? I don't know. And going back to story-wise, I am interested in, seeing some characters we haven't seen for a long period of time. As I said, it's been like a decade for a couple of them. Teferi appeared in one of the commander sets because it was supposed to be like classic characters that were planeswalkers that never got a card.
Right.
And he got a card there. And Karn, again, we haven't seen since Scars, but that's a lot more recent than Time Spiral, but still. Anyway, I just wanted to hint on this a little bit and talk about it because I'm hearing little hints of things here and there coming up for it.
Well, we'll find out in 2 months.
Yeah, it's the next Sun coming up. So I guess in about a half a month they'll start having spoilers, or like month and a half or something.
They give me a second. I just had it up.
The official spoiler season for them begins.
Let's see, Magic.
Because they
pre-release weekend's going to be the 21st.
So that means they should have the entire list up by around the 14th.
Yeah, they said standard showdown begins May 6th.
That's later, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and the online launch will be the 23rd.
Okay. So it's coming along. We'll just have to see when everything drops, how it drops.
Okay, Magic Open House will be April 14th and 15th.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's when the spoilers will be probably fully out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. By that point in time, the full list should be complete. Whatever it's going to end up being.
So a little less than 2 months.
Yeah, which isn't a bad period of time. Got a little bit of time to actually get some better hints or something about what's going on. So we'll just see what they give us. All right. Why don't we move on, though, because that's just a precursor to a set that I'm actually anticipating a lot more than the others. Why don't we move on to Banestorm? Because I wanted to talk about it last week. Let's talk about it now. So, Gurps came out with a new book called Banestorm. And the thing about Gurps books that I've seen for the majority of them is the majority of them are very general, We've seen that Gurps, Steve Jackson Games can do more exact things. Because don't they have Dungeon Fantasy, which is based upon Gurps, but it's its own system based upon the fantasy versions of Gurps. Right. This one is talking about an entire land where it's very interesting because it's the land of Yurth, where this kind of cataclysm snatched things from other worlds, and including Earth. So you have various whole villages transported there from medieval England, France, Germany, and the Far East.
And now they're struggling with dwarves, elves, and each other.
Yes, and it's yes, they were just in the Crusades, and you could go to the Nomad lands where there's Nordics. Or you can go to Megalos, where there's an ancient empire of magic. Or you could go to areas that are more Muslim lands, or areas that are out in China or Japan. So there's a lot of. It's interesting because it feels more like an actual setting than, they say it's specifically for fantasy or fantasy adventure Gurps games, really. And its background, history, religion, culture, politics, races, all detail, and a detailed map of what you'll need to use in a Gurps campaign. And is this a different direction for Gurps, which I'm only vaguely I've never played Gurps. I know a little bit about it, but never had a chance to actually play it. So I find this very interesting,
Yeah.
That it feels different than a lot of their releases or re-releases when they put those out.
Yeah, I don't know much about Gurps, but I know the whole point of it is that it's super flexible and can do anything, and so it's kind of interesting to see a more specific thing.
Yeah. Is this better than
they even have a whole section in the book about the oceans.
That's always cool, keeping it with keeping the information up and providing it very well. Yes, that's
under the sea.
Thank you.
I try.
What was that? Now you've got me off on a different entire thought pattern. as I was trying to kind of say, would this be a better direction for Gurps to take, that as we're seeing how the modern audience has evolved, that maybe getting into like unusual and different settings that you can integrate in your own ways are better than just going like, oh, here's fantasy, here's starships, here's sci-fi, here's underground fantasy, you know, like a lot of the specific books which are very like either directly into a genre or fit into a genre pretty well and allow you to use it, which feels like the classic GURPS.
Yeah. Oh, they even have a timeline from 200 BC to 1550 AD.
Neat.
So I do like the idea of more specific worlds. It's kind of fun to see what, like, I actually think if anything it's just a good way for them to kind of show what you can do with their system.
That's also a very true thing. I agree with that. That's entirely a great one. That like this would be like, here's what you can do with GURPS. That's very true. Go ahead. No, it says.
No, I don't know what I was going to say.
It's a lot of that today. The what was I going to say?
Well, 200 BC is the earliest reliable dwarf and elf records.
Ooh.
And 400 BC, the Dark Elves incite the last major dwarf-elf war.
Before the Banestorm occurred. The Banestorm! Why do I feel like it's like a professional wrestler? You
Yeah, it
well,
probably was at
with
some
the
point.
Banestorm!
Yes, in year 1050, the Bane spell backfires. The resulting Banestorm begins.
Neat. Okay.
What this makes me think of, though, is in The Simpsons, there's a game that Bart always plays called Bone Storm.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Bonestorm.
It's literally just one letter difference, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's a specific, like specific settings. That's like, it's so interesting that they, for once, have one. You know, I'm still like kind of put aback by like, you know, that will we see more specific settings from GURPS now? Is this just like one time that, you know, someone came up with a great idea? I would love to see them do more. Yeah. More examples of like, oh, here's a sci-fi system. Here's a horror system. You know, things like that. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. I don't know if they're actually going to do it.
Ooh, dwarves have technology.
Ooh. So are they like dwarfs, or are they like Skyrim dwarfs, which are really elves that are called dwarfs? And
Well, there's also surface dwarfs.
Oh, surface dwarfs. We all know about the surface dwarfs. I don't know.
But most of those are exiled criminals or someone who has been temporarily banished.
Ooh.
Or a malcontent.
Uh-oh, malcontents. Why do I
there's
feel like
technology in Xerac.
Why do I feel like when you're talking about surface dwarfs, I like see a dwarf like a switchblade being like, you know, in a gang or something.
Leather jacket.
Yeah.
Smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. With greased back hair and greased up beard. It's a greased dwarf.
Oh god, I cast fireball on it.
Now I feel like someone should somewhere play a greaser dwarf with greased up hair and beard and a switchblade.
Well, they have technology. Maybe they have a motorcycle.
You could probably do it in like Shadowrun though too. Greaser dwarf. It's like the 1950s is calling. They want your aesthetic back.
They want your dwarfness back. I mean, greaserness back.
I like yours better. They want their dwarfness back. You stole the 1950s dwarfness. When did they get that? Who knows?
Well, maybe it's not. You just said 50s. Maybe it's not 1950s.
Oh, 2050s, yeah.
Well, or if you're in this era, it could be the 1050s when Banestorm happened.
Brainstorm!
Banestorm happens, and I turned into a greaser dwarf.
Again, it sounds like a professional wrestler or something. I can't take it not that direction. I don't know.
No, it's a Mexican
It's the luchador guy from Way
Yeah,
of
it's
the
a
Fighter.
luchador.
From Way of the
Who
Fighter.
are you? I am Banestorm.
Senor, I am the Banestorm. Okay, I went French there. Like you went.
I don't know why we keep going French with Spanish.
Oh God.
Senor, I am the Banestorm.
Wyrm's just like I'm staying out of this entire.
No, I'm actually looking into like the authors. I'm curious what else they've done, just to kind of see what. Right. Oh, okay. One of the authors of this book did work for White Wolf.
Okay.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Nice.
Fine. Page.
Cool.
Okay, the orcs look a little silly, and they look like they have to go to the bathroom really bad.
I haven't seen any art. I'm gonna take your word for the orcs looking like they're constipated.
Yeah. They're kind of like gritting their teeth and like slitting their eyes.
So one of the authors has basically just worked on GURPS with Steve Jackson forever, and the other one, he's done some stuff with GURPS. He's done some stuff with White Wolf Publishing for Trinityverse.
Cool. I like their example of characters: a peasant-born hero, an orcish pirate, or a Muslim double agent commanded to infiltrate the hospitals. It's like, wow, that's oddly specific.
I'm a Muslim orc.
I'm guessing you could be one.
Call me Mork.
Yeah, so he seemed to have started in the other one seemed to have started with White Wolf and then switched to GURPS.
An entire religion
Jackson.
size.
I'm just curious what kind of might have brought this on if like one of them like thought of an idea, if someone thought of an idea and was like, hey, why don't we do this?
That's true. Where would they come up with the idea?
You know.
It is a very original idea, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Steve Jackson GURPS.
Yeah.
Which, again, as we said, not a bad thing, just a different thing.
Yeah, and it seems to have been mainly written by those two guys, one of them who's been a long-time GURPS, and the other one who came over from White Wolf in like 2003.
Cool.
So it's kind of like, I wouldn't be surprised it was kind of like a...
White
hey,
GURPS.
Yeah. It was very White Wolf influenced, we might be able to say. You know, it's like the guy from White Wolf was like, hey, you know what? We could do something like this. It would be cool. And the GURPS guy's like, sure.
That's just my assumption. I really have no idea. It's kind of hard to find information.
It sounds like it could actually be true.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to say about it.
Because White Wolf is all about their setting. All of White Wolf's games have a very concrete setting and world, which is why it makes sense that even if they thought of even if Steve Jackson was like, let's do this, it makes sense that they would have hired someone who had worked for White Wolf before, or someone on their team who had worked for White Wolf before they would have put on this project, you know? So it's kind of like...
So, yeah, we don't know for sure if this was a project they had on the radar beforehand. But at very least, you know, they had the right person for the job in the group.
Yeah.
So that's good. Cool.
Sometimes it's like something's kind of out of the blue. It's sometimes fun to look at the people behind it, so...
Yeah, that's true. Apparently the hardcover is in low stock. So if you want to get the hardcover for $35, low stock.
Or just wait till they restock it.
Shh. I'm going to say this
In fact, some things are perpetually in low stock, which is kind of like, eh.
I'm perpetually in low stock.
Don't see why you shouldn't buy either the hardcover or the soft cover, because the PDF is $25 and the soft cover is $30. PDFs usually I would get because they're usually like half the price. This is certainly not. So I feel like I would be, if I would be getting to get it, I would be definitely compelled to get the soft cover, just because of that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a little interesting. So, that's something to think about too. I think I said to someone who was commenting on our way we were talking about the Munchkin, the collectible card game, is like, we bust on Steve Jackson Games a lot for a lot of their choices, but it's out of a space of love. I love Munchkin. I would like for them to succeed. Just stop doing weird and annoying things, Steve Jackson.
It's more like their marketing is bad, but their products are good.
Yes. Their marketing is really bad, but their products are really good. It's like, what is wrong with these Steve Jackson games?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy a lot of Steve Jackson products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just some of the stuff they come up with, the way they come out with it is like, why?
Well, it's a little of sometimes how they come up, like what they come up with, and a little bit of like how they come up with, like, or
when they don't, or when they just like sometimes they just don't let things die.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's just little things here and there that they do that's just like, Steve Jackson Games, please stop it.
Mm-hmm. Like, let's come out with the original set again, but with less cards for slightly less money.
Or something that's obviously going to sell like hotcakes. Let's kickstart it.
We're not sure. We're gonna just kickstart it.
And I'm gonna add into too expensive on a PDF side. Your PDFs are too expensive.
Well, that might be just to try to push you to buy the book.
I'm sure that's why. Yes. But not everyone can get the book, and its convenience factor is usually the PDF. So.
True. But Steve Jackson does like to bring out as much money as they can.
They do have a very, like...
Merchandising.
There you go. Yeah. They went merchandising route, and they've never looked back.
You know, this is the first time I actually looked into it, but I actually clicked on, like, he has, like, a little profile thing that I found on his website. And he's kind of eccentric.
I've only seen a couple of things on him, but I'm pretty sure Steve Jackson is very eccentric.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, let's just say, like, he has a picture of him, like, dressed as a pirate as, like, the top image on his profile.
Of course he
awesome.
does. That fits perfectly. Good work, Steve Jackson. Good work. You win the universe in this case, Steve Jackson.
Steve Jackson, the flamethrower?
I wouldn't put it beyond them. I would not put it beyond them. Yep. Anyway, so yes, so getting away from Steve Jackson Games a little bit and stuff. Why don't we move on to our next topic? Banestorm's out. It's interesting. It's very interesting, and I'm going to say that one. Now this is actually something I did want to talk about because I found it very. Because I'm using it as a stepping stone into our last topic kind of thing, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit. Is Eldritch has the Mask of Nyarlathotep out as an expansion. Now, Eldritch is a cooperative board game, but I would call it more a card game board game because it's in the Arkham Horror universe. We have our Arkham Horror, which is the big game. Then we have our God. Sorry. We were talking about the other week. The dice game one. Joe, come on, help me here. I'm blanking out completely. I'm blanking out so hard.
Wait, what dice game one? I'm sorry. I was reading
Arkham
something.
Horror, the Arkham Horror dice game.
Oh, we didn't play one last week.
Well, no, we talked about it.
Oh, Shazbot.
The Pharaoh? Wait, you mean
Oh,
Elder Sign.
Elder Sign.
Yep, that's it.
Elder Sign.
Elder Sign, which is their like card game. No, their dice game version of it. I would call it the dice game. This is more of the, from what I've seen, the card game version of it. Okay, not that they don't have an Arkham Horror, the actual collectible card game, or the semi-collectable card game, which we'll dive into, because they have one of those also. But that's an indifferent entire beast. This is still long, because it's still 2 to 3 hours. And that's with the expansion. Now, Once again, it's a cooperative board game where you're traversing the globe to thwart a cataclysm of the Ancient One. So cool. You know, it's a different direction than most of, like, the Arkham Horror games. A lot of them are very location-based. So having something a little bit more global and different is very interesting. I get a feeling that the Eldritch Horror line is more along those lines anyway. A little bit more global-centric? Global-centric, would that be the word? Sure. If not, it's now the word I've come up with, and I've decided that's the proper word. Global-centric. And no one can fight me on this.
I challenge you to a duel.
Fisticuffs at dawn. We're gonna do old timey fisticuffs. So you have to put your fists up like this and be ready to punch.
But only if we could have a playing in the background.
Sure. And afterwards, we'll lift our large triangular weights.
Of course, Phineas.
Indeed. Ha ha.
Would you like to toss the medicine ball?
No. Anyway, so, yes. Eldritch Horror being very Arkham Horror inspired. Because I feel like Arkham Horror, I don't know what company does it, but I don't think it's Fantasy Flight. I think Fantasy Flight took the license of it and did stuff.
I'll take your license.
Because I recall Arkham Horror being like, I don't know what company it was.
I don't know off the top of my head.
No, they might have it under Fantasy Flight now. It might have just been an old, like, website I remember checking out previously.
Well, it's possible they bought them out a long time ago or something.
Yeah, that's true. It could have been a combination of like combined stuff.
Well, I'm checking out the Wikipedia. Continue.
I mean,
Okay.
everything's bought out by something else nowadays.
Accurate, very accurate. I was looking at expansions. Yes. So Eldritch Horror has put out a bunch of expansions. Like, this is the 4th of their big expansions, and they have 4 small expansions.
Chaosium Inc.
Okay. Which puts them pretty tied with Arkham Horror now, which was originally 4 large expansions, 4 small expansions. Checking that out. So that's cool that they've kind of met with their inspiration that way. And yes, being all, like, more global based is definitely very awesome. But I mean, like, we can talk about Eldritch Horror a bunch, and that's fine, you know, talking about the entire Lovecraftian Arkham Horror universe that has been developing. You know, we were talking Elder Side. We have Eldritch Horror now. We have Arkham Horror there. They're all very interesting and very different, and just...
Oh my god.
What?
The original Arkham Horror dates back actually to 1987 by Chaosium. Here is a link to the original picture of the box.
Let's take a look here.
It looks very 80s.
That is very 80s.
Yes, that is very 80s. Wow. So, like,
here's how it's gone. So it started with Chaosium in 1987. Then it switched hands in 2004 to Skotos.
yeah.
And then in 2011, Fantasy Flights bought them out.
Okay. Yeah, that's... Okay. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I've had my Arkham Horror that long. Have I? God, I might have.
Not since 1987.
No, but since 2011. Well, 2011, the expansion Curse of
That's
Dark
when
Flower came out
Elder
2000.
Sign came out too.
Yeah. So they had expansions out before then, because it looks like, yes, it took over in 2011, but a lot of the expansions.
Well, before
were out
there was the Call of Cthulhu collectible card game. Lovecraft Country Arkham by Night.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all, and the role-playing game, these are all things beforehand. I think Elder Sign was the start of what we know of Arkham Horror.
Because that's Fantasy Flight. But no,
Yeah.
I think I got some of the stuff from before the older editions, because now you can get them through Fantasy Flight, the older expansions. But I learned of the expansions from before Fantasy Flight had it.
Ah, okay.
And
I just like the original car. I wish they had a picture of like the original board.
That would be an interesting thing to see. Anyway, 1987 Arkham Horror. Oh, here, I found an image of it.
Ooh.
Let's see if I can get a good.
Oh wow, that looks a lot more basic.
Oh, it looks a lot like kind of like Clue and stuff.
It looks like Sorry Pieces.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, you know, I like it. It's like listed playtime 2 to 3 hours. Actual playtime 3 to 6 hours. Accurate. Very accurate. Arkham Horror has always been an incredibly long game.
Yes.
But anyway, so
Kind of makes me think of Shoots and Ladders, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see that too.
It does also. Yes, I agree. Shoots and Ladders with Lovecraft.
Cthulian Shoots.
Just don't go down that chute, or you'll be eaten by an abomination.
Oh.
Not again. Oh no, I got the shoot. Aww. My soul has been devoured by the horrible abominations of the abyss. Not again. Alright.
Wah, wah, wah.
But getting back to it. So yes, I think like Arkham Horror kind of hit its end after its 8 expansions. So I feel like Eldritch Horror was sort of its spiritual successor in a way, because that's been like Fantasy Flight has the rights for it, started with that, but they've also done, you know, Elder Sign, which they've been doing, I mean, if I look at the majority of Elder Sign's expansions have happened over the past couple of years. Elder Sign came out, the first expansion came out, and it was years before they started doing more expansions again. It really was only until I started doing the show that we really started seeing a lot of these other expansions come out. And they've chugged them out now pretty regularly. So I don't know if that's a sign that, you know, like, Fantasy Flight has grown and they feel like they can do a lot of this stuff now. Or, you know, maybe there's something else to the entire thing. I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely that's one of the details about it. It's like, yes, we're seeing a lot more when it comes to the expansions. And, you know, and it's just a sign that things are continuing. I'm wondering if they're going to make something different now or continue with Eldritch Horror past the 8th expansion.
I don't know.
That's a tough one, because, like, there does come a point in time, I think there are too many expansions. Like, this is not quite there yet. You know, and there's a level of creativity that can be added to. Because I remember when I was still trying to get them all, the Zombies board game, when I would get an expansion for it, it would be like, oh, it's an entirely new area with unique new things. It was cool, but they kept going pretty close. Greetings. It just felt like it was getting hard to keep up with because it was a lot of expansions. And the only thing I say, like, Elder Sign is at least a little bit more reasonably priced. Like, this one, they definitely can't put more than, like, maybe 2 out a year to put people really to be able to keep up with it because of the price, I'm sure, because it's big stuff. But where can they go? I don't know.
They could always reboot with a complete new area and then do expansions off that again, instead of doing expansions off the same original game.
Yeah, they could do it again, like they did with Arkham Horror to Eldritch Horror. They could take another step.
Also, half the half the Eldritch horror expansions are smaller.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the exact same as I said with the Arkham Horror, that half of them were small and half of them were large. And yes, the smaller ones are much more cost-effective, and maybe if you just did smaller ones, you could probably keep it going for a lot longer. But, like, as with me, I think I have Arkham Horror, but I might be missing one of the expansions. Sorry. I'm gonna sneeze.
No sneezing for you.
It just came upon me, and it couldn't go away. I was gonna say something. I think I'm only missing like one of the expansions, maybe. I don't know if I finished getting all the expansions, but the sheer fact is, I can't compress it into one box, which is something I always find convenient about when you get things with expansions, that you don't have a billion boxes to play one game. You want to be able to compress them down into a single box, or like maybe 2 boxes. Like Arkham Horror, I do it in 2 boxes. Because one has a lot of the stuff if I'm playing specific versions of the game. I like kind of separate it out. So it's like base game with all the extra cards from the expansions I can play with the base game, no extra problem. And then I have like, you know, if I'm doing Innsmouth or one of the other extra maps, I have those boards in here along with all the cards and stuff associated with them. So it makes it easy to play that way at least. But yeah, you start getting bloated on the expansions. And
right.
So, this is... I don't know if this is a sign for things to change, or we're going to still see a lot more of them, but... Well, that's another thing, like... the more standalone expansions, I do think that's not a bad idea, because it's like with... When we're talking about Elder Sign, it's like, I need the base Elder Sign, and one of the expansions. Am I playing Streets? Am I playing the, cold area? I'm playing the water area? I'm playing the desert area? I don't know. I'll grab one of them today.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's is why that direction is a little better for them. But you can't really switch gears very easily when it comes to these games. So I'm curious as to what they can do next. But
I say cold water desert. That means we're in Antarctica.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, cold deserts are a real thing.
Yeah. So, why don't we kind of move on, though, because I do want to talk about semi-collectible card games a little bit. And, it's like, when I've been reporting on stuff, it seems like Fantasy Flight is the main source of a lot of these ones. Not the only one, but like Fantasy Flight, they have their Game of Thrones, the card game series, Netrunner, which is a lot older one, which they've sort of taken over and redone, Legends of the Five Ring, Lord of the Rings, which has one, and Arkham Horror, which has one. And they put out a crap ton of those small expansions. When I saw Steve Jackson Games doing the little, like, packs with a certain number of cards that were just, this is the pack, these are the cards, it's always the same, I was suspecting of that. But they came up with something to mimic, the big collectible card games, and Fantasy Flights ran with it. They certainly do a billion of these, way more than I think they should. Personally.
Mm.
It's like, I became annoyed with Steve Jackson when they did the little, packet sticks. They're cool, they're interesting, and yes, I understand, a lot of times they come up with stuff that you probably couldn't have in a big expansion on its own,
Right.
Not to say it wouldn't be marketable, but the creativity would lose a lot. Like, you can only do so much stuff with dragons. So we'll have a 15-card dragon pack instead of a, 70-card dragon expansion for something, where we have to come up with 70 different things related to dragons, which is a little harder. Because you're stretching a very specific topic thin. Instead of just fantasy, we have some dragons. On the other hand, like, yes, we then get into the Fantasy Flight series with, Arkham Horror. It's a new like scenario pack that you can add in a new scenario to it. That every like couple of months you can buy it in. So I'm like, so would I've played through once and run out of scenarios, and they're continually selling me new scenarios.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, so what's the difference between a collectible card game and a semi-collectible card game?
Semi-collectible, when they sell you a product, is all the same things every time.
Okay, so you know what you're getting.
Yep.
Right.
And there is no, like, reason to collect them because the decks are all the same, pretty much. But, like, yes, the semi-collectible has a little bit of deck building, because as with Netrunner, when Joe got all the expansion packs for Netrunner, we could customize the Netrunner decks. But it's still, like, he bought the packs, and they were, this is what they are, flat.
Right.
So I personally, okay, so now that I know what the difference is, I just was curious because I wasn't entirely sure. So now that, honestly, I kind of like the concept of semi-collectible card games, I'll be completely honest. I kind of wish some of the collectible card games were semi-collectible. I understand the purpose of rarity in making certain things good, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't have that one card, your deck doesn't work right. You know, it's kind of like, so it's kind of like, well, if you can build a CCG around a semi-CCG concept, you can always have, you know, basically you can build the way you want to and reliably get the cards you need.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there is advantage to semi-collectible. I will not deny that there's definitely some good advantages to it.
You're playing on a more even keel.
But there is a restriction at, like, there's definitely, like,
you don't have the chance in there as much.
You don't have the chance. You know.
But I think it makes it more of a more strategy than as much luck.
Mm-hmm. Joe. Yes, true. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Yes. Strategy. Well, what I was going to say about it is there is definitely a level which is also probably less profitable, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. If you, like, a collectible card game probably can sell more packs of stuff. Because everybody wants certain things, you know. It's got a better, probably, profit margin. It's a better, you know, if you're looking on the business side. Which I'm not going to say is a necessarily bad thing. That, you know, the semi-collectible also, it's sort of like, it's a lot easier to collect it, you know, for someone that likes to collect cards and stuff like that. But I also feel like the even keel isn't necessarily an appeal for me always. Because I don't mind if, like, I get into a difficulty where I have this difference between it. I feel like the semi-collectible needs more product to have it feel like you have variety in it.
Yeah, I get that. A lot of the problem with the semi-collectible card games is just that I don't know what it you know, honestly, I don't know what it is about semi-collectible card games that just don't take off in the same way collectible card games do.
I think it is definitely because, like, you know, if me and Joe would play a semi-collectible card game with each other, like when we're playing Netrunner, we had just the basic decks. When you got the expansions, there are some changes we can do, but they're not major changes. There's a huge core of those decks, which are still the exact same as they were. It's just a couple of different cards, which might make a difference in the way we play it out. But it's just a little bit. There's not like a huge jump in it, you know, in the differences. And it still is basically the same thing. You know, I can't come up with like some kind of weird combination corporate deck, you know. It's always like, it's basically this deck, which is what you bought to begin with. Or this deck, which you bought to begin with. It doesn't feel like it's mine ever truly. You know, well, if I put together collectible card games and I built a deck out of it, I feel like I built this. The chances of someone else having something exactly the same as me, slim.
I guess so. I think it's that exclusivity that makes collectible card games so much more interesting. That it, because people can go, I have this rare card, you know, and not even that I have this rare card, but I have this foil version of this rare card that I have in my deck, and good, and I could use it. And it's kind of like, I feel like there's a little bit of both the gambling concept, that the exclusivity that kind of makes it a lot more appealing to people. But I personally find that unappealing, which is why I like the concept of semi-collectible card games. I just don't feel like any of them are built well enough to fulfill that card game role in a grand fashion that collectible card games do.
I think with the semi-collectible, you can still make a deck that feels like your own, because even with like Netrunner, when you buy the expansions out and you're building then your deck out of that, yes, you still have to, you're playing with the same cards that maybe everyone else bought those expansions, but you can put them together in a unique way.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't put them together in a unique way. It's just what my entire thing, what I was trying to boil down to is like, I can't remember the names of the corporations, but let's say like Corporation A. No matter how much extra cards I get, no matter how many expansions I get, it's still a Corporation A deck. Period. And there's only so many deck archetypes then. They don't actually come out with a lot of new deck archetypes. They only have so many corporations. They just put out expansions that give you stuff for those corporations. So it's sort of like, whereas like Magic, I could, if I'm playing, let's say, even like Modern, I could probably come up with like, a list of like 100 different deck archetypes, all of which I could build and make work somehow. Well,
it depends on... Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Well, for this one, I've got like 5.
Well, it depends on what you consider a deck archetype. I mean, in theory, in Magic, there are like... I mean, in general, you have like 5 pieces, which you then can mix together. The white, the blue, red, green, and black.
Well, and colorless.
But the thing is, each within those colors, there's usually different strategies that you can do.
And you can merge them together. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that, like, yes, these semi-collectible card games have the, like, but, it's like, how do you define the archetype? I mean, then you've got red, and then you've got, I'm trying to remember what the colors do.
I'll use your example to talk about it. Like, Corporation A in Netrunner, I always felt like it tried to do the same thing. Even when I got the extra cards for it, it was always like I think the Media Corporation is the one I built the deck for. So it's all about.
There's still a certain strategy, yes.
There's with Magic. But if I take a red deck, my good strategies are I could do, let's say, a speed deck, where it's all about having haste and speed. First strike deck, where it's all about getting the first damage. A burn deck, which is all about burning opponents. A dragon deck, all about getting dragons out. And those are just some simple ones. A goblin deck, all about having goblins. And
okay, I get where you're going with this now.
Yeah.
But that's also Magic. I mean, what about other collectible card games? Are they as rainbow as that? Like,
actually, yes. In Yu-Gi-Oh, they have the types. They have the elemental types. They have the creature types, and they have effects. And then they have non-listed types which go together, such as the Ancient Gear collection, which can which all help each other, but they're all technically still machine monster type versus. And then I think but then they can vary between air, earth, or whatever elemental type. And so they have a lot of variation there as well, and certain decks can be built around certain things, and even include some decks can be built around a specific creature. If you've ever watched the anime, Mai's Harpy deck is almost entirely built around her harpies.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So, and that's kind of where I'm getting at with this, is like, you get more of those varieties, and and then I'm not even talking about the insanity of that you get specific combo decks, because those exist too, where you can get decks based around specific just a combo, and enhancing and getting that combo out as best you can. And I think that's another one of the appeals of the collectible card game versus semi-collectible. The semi-collectible, you're still to a degree beholden to what the company gave you. You're always going to be. You can never get away from that strategy. As I said, for Netrunner, the Media Corporation A will always be a media corporation. You can probably tweak it a little bit, but there's always going to be this core vein there that you can never change, which maybe you don't mind. I personally don't think that's not a bad thing when you're playing the game of Netrunner. You know.
Then I guess. Sorry, but I guess this goes down to the real core of the issue, is that semi-collectible card games don't scratch the same itch that collectible card games do.
I think that's true.
The purpose of strategy. Like, they don't vary up their strategy enough to be like, oh, you can literally mix and match and create any combo, to the point where, you know, you have an untyped deck, like, and let's go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi has a completely untyped deck. It's just a bunch of good cards that he shoves in his deck.
No, the thing is, I was going to say, you could modify the rules, though, to be able to do something like that.
Yes, and that's not an impossibility and not always a terrible thing, but then you are dealing with either, more likely, usually most of the time when you have to go into that, it's going into your own custom rules or using something someone came up with online. Which, I mean, we saw that in much earlier versions of Magic, that a lot of people come up with their own ways of playing. But nowadays, most of the time, it's just, you know, what Wizards supports. Because they have that variety.
What my point is, you could build a semi-collectible card game with those rules already in place.
Mm-hmm.
Would be nice. And I think that's one of the disadvantages of the current semi-collectible card game market. We don't have that yet.
No, we don't.
Right.
And I feel like that would be a good option to see a semi-collectible card game do. It's just something that hasn't been done. And it would be very fun to see a game where you can literally build the deck the way you want. But the thing about a game like that is that actually becomes harder. Because when you have rarity involved, you have to settle. When you don't have rarity involved, all options must be viable.
I think that's one of those things. Like with Netrunner, you didn't have a rarity, and what they did is like...
No, but you had the point cost system.
That's what I'm saying. You have a point cost system, so you could only purchase this much. And usually they just had like, oh, better cards are more expensive.
Right.
So they put in their own sort of cap or own kind of rarity into it that didn't really exist, but still.
It's a way of getting around the rarity part.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. You know, it's like I do like some semi-collectibles. As I said, I enjoyed Netrunner a good deal. It's been a fun one for us to play when the rare times we get a chance to play it. But it doesn't, again, I agree, have that appeal that Magic has. Not at all. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the big thing, is just that, you know, don't have the options.
Nope. All right, why don't we move into our final segments, since I like that discussion. We had a very interesting discussion on those type of cards. Let's go on to our Kickstarter Korner. So, this is a segment we have each week where we talk about a Kickstarter of the week, basically. We each kind of choose a Kickstarter from either one that we discover ourselves or from the list of Kickstarters I have on my Gathering the Roll show, which you folks out there may or may not have seen. So, let us start with, let's say, Joe. Sure.
Okay, so I found Robin Hood and the Merry Men. Cool. I'm going to put the link in there. Bam.
Nice.
So, it looks really interesting. They've already blew way past their goal of 20,000. They're at 170,000.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they still have 25 days to go.
Yeah.
So this one's definitely doing well. You're basically playing Robin and his merry men versus the sheriff. I haven't had a lot of look over it, but it looked very interesting.
Semi-cooperative, highly competitive.
Yeah. And bigger dice.
2 to 4 players, 25 minutes per player. Okay, so I like it when they tell us that, where they're like, you get this much time per player. You know?
Yes, that makes it a lot. It's like, okay, how many people do we have? How much time do we have? Is this viable right now?
Yes. As they said, like with the Arkham Horror, 2 to 3 hours. Actual 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah. Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a downloadable rules section.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. 2 players, 6 pennies, 7 pennies.
I like their little big meeples.
Yes.
That they have little artwork on
with
them.
the stickers.
Yes, with the stickers on them. Those are very nice.
Okay, so players take turns taking actions with their Merry Men meeples. Phase continues until all available Merry Men have been placed. Okay, so it's your basic placing your meeple on the board, doing various action phases.
Mm-hmm.
Players hero phase. Players equipped by drafting weapon dice. And my screen just jumped. Give me a second. The rules seem to be lagging on my computer a little bit. Okay, each player takes 1 turn with their hero, draw and resolve sheriff card, make 2 moves with the hero.
Okay, cool.
So I think it's somewhat resource management and somewhat attack.
Okay. I've seen a couple games like that. That's a good format, an interesting format.
Yeah, a little bit different. And they've already unlocked a bunch of stuff. They've unlocked larger dice.
Mm-hmm.
Blue core card upgrade.
Sheriff cards. Player board thickness increase.
Yeah, linen finish. 5 more random tiles. A new hero, Alan Adale. Only available in the deluxe version. Knight Richard tasks. Spot UV logo on the box as an upgrade. More sheriff cards. And then the 2 they haven't unlocked yet, but one they're very close, is linen finish on the box and main board.
Nice.
And a solo mode.
Ooh. Cool. So I guess those are things to watch and see about those.
Well, they're only 10,000 away from the linen finish and 30,000 away from the solo mode, and they have 25 days to go, and they're already at 170.
Yeah.
And they only originally was 20. And they have some cool little figures that come with it, like trap tokens, barricade tokens.
It looks like you can get a deluxe version where they look really cool looking.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously. I know. There's just stuff that's getting me sneezy right now. Where's Doc?
Stop sniffing feathers.
Okay, cool. This one's an interesting one, and it's funded. How about you, Wyrm? What do you got for us this week?
So I have a game called Sword Crafters. It is a short game. It plays in about 30 minutes. And basically you take turns. You basically take turns separating a board. Like you put out a 4x4 grid of these like sword pieces, and then you take turns separating it down a single line. And which they call like cutting the board or whatever. But then and then after everyone like splits it, you then take turns grabbing up each section. So sometimes it may be 1, sometimes it may be 4, sometimes it may be 3, depending on how people cut it up. And then the ones that aren't used, you then put back in the put back. But it's but then what you do, you use those to like kind of build your sword or whatever. You use these pieces and kind of connect them together to like make a longer sword. And then after you do this, basically you do this until there are no more pieces, there's no more pieces to fill that 4x4 grid of pieces. And then you calculate your score, which is a couple things such as whoever has the longest sword, how many consecutive, who has the most consecutive piece types, because the pieces have different colors like red, blue, yellow, green. And then there's also, at the beginning, you draw 3 random goals, I guess you could call them. I don't remember what they called them, but they're basically goal types. And it's like, okay, well, you need basically whoever is the most yellow and green, whoever has the most, and they usually are 2 colors, whoever is the most yellow and green, or whoever is the most red and blue, or whoever is the most purple and orange, so it's like, and then you basically score get scores based on how many you have of those, and it's kind of just whoever has the most points at the end wins.
Cool.
It's a very simple game, and it seems they are currently not funded, but they are 75% of the way there, and they have 24 days left to go. So
pretty looks pretty good for getting funded.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just a fun little game. Comes with 91 sword tiles, first player token, core points, and the sword hilts, which are basically the thing you build your little sword off of, and then the sword card, the 15 of the sword cards, which you use to determine how you're scoring that round.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So for myself, there wasn't a huge amount of Kickstarters out this week for me to choose from. I do want to give a shout out to Lexicon of Dueling. They have Japanese katanas now. Lexicon Dueling looked like an interesting little game, but it wasn't enough for me to dive into. But they might not fund. They're pretty on the border if they could hit it or not. But the one I wanted to talk about was one that looked really cool. Is the Reckoners. Reckoners was interesting. It's a cooperative board game based on some book series, where apparently you must defend the city of New Kago and defeat Steelheart. So apparently, it's really interesting storyline where everyone gained superpower. A bunch of people gained superpowers, and they were called epics. But everyone that got a superpower turned evil. And the most powerful of them all was Steelheart, which reigned supreme in the city once known as Chicago, New Kago. And the people that fight back him are the Reckoners, who are members of these group of normal humans who are skilled and trained to assassinate epics. So the object is for you to take down Steelheart and his epics. So that's kind of cool. I thought that was a different kind of idea of the the superhero kind of idealism. As I said, it's funded. It's reached over 200% of its goal with 18 days to go. So they definitely are hitting a bunch of their stretch goals. Where are the... Here they go. They got some new epics to add into for you to fight. Some new equipment. A new extra deluxe miniature for Steelheart. And they're working on a couple of things a box upgrade. And,
med kit.
Yeah, and a med kit.
Scanning for the next file.
Yeah, I think that means that they're going to reveal the next Kickstarter or
180. Yeah.
Yeah, soon. Now for 69 pledge, you get a copy of the game, some Reckoners Untold Epics and Artwork PDF, and all the stretch goals, including deluxe stretch goals, which I think there's literally currently one deluxe, and that's the Steelheart extra miniature.
Right.
So for 69, that's the only thing you don't get right now, which isn't bad. And for 99, I think you get all the stuff with all the upgradeds. Oh, because it upgrades all the components to metal on the deluxe copy. And all the stretch goals at 99. So that's kind of
neat. Yeah, the Steelheart edition.
Yeah. And the epic version, which is 119, it has all pre-painted character miniatures for all of them.
Nice.
Yeah. So, if you really wanted miniatures for all your stuff instead of, kind of little standy things, you could go all the way for 119. No, it looks really cool. Let me put the link in chat, because I probably should have. There you go. I think the entire storyline and, setting of the game is what really caught my eye. That was what I found was very interesting about it. And really kind of cool. So, alright, why don't we move on to our, of course, next segment, our second to last segment, where it's called Our Week in Tabletop, where we tell you about our week in tabletop. Why don't we start with Wyrm this time, because we started with Joe for Kickstarters.
Okay, I basically had the game I ran on Wednesday, which I'll let Tantus cover, and then we also played Besom on Thursday on Tantus's channel.
Yes.
And I guess I will cover that.
Sure.
It was actually rather interesting. It was the Besom Full Metal Alchemist game. We kind of stumbled around rooting out who was who. There was a lot of red herrings. We eventually kind of figured it out, basically because they tried to kill us.
Yes.
But most of them still got away anyway. They tried to, but yeah, we kind of had an idea of who it was. We only knew, like, I think we only were certain of who two of them were before, basically, we discovered.
Yeah. You did suspect a few others, though.
Yeah, there was a couple on the list, but we kind of figured out who it was based on, yeah, but most of them got away. Did you say that they ended up being hunted down except for that one?
They're basically wanted, you know.
Okay. Yeah, so but there's also like one guy who was not part of the group, which was a rogue alchemist who eventually did who wasn't with them specifically. That if we ever go back to it, he seems like he'll be an interesting character to
Be
revisit.
Sort of the kind of villain for your team, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Tiv built a little underground house room thing. While I actually looked around to see what was going on.
Yep.
I guess because I was the subtle character.
Yep. Cool.
But yeah, that was fun.
Yep. Joe, how about your week in gaming?
Not much. Hana and I played a game of Unfair, which I completely lost. She won her first game. And then we played Quarriors on Monday. Or not Quarriors, we played
Dead of Winter.
Dead of Winter, which we epically lost.
We did lose that one. The
That was
dice
quite
were
a
not
turn
in our
around. Yeah.
favor.
Oh no, we got bitten up wazoo.
I don't think I've ever been bitten that much in Dead of Winter. I've lost games before, but I don't think I've ever lost because of getting bit that much.
I lucked out. I did not get bit once.
The amount of bites on characters. I think you and Tiv were just getting bit left and right.
I didn't even move all that
frostbite.
much. Yeah, also, and if it wasn't a bite, it was a frostbite, which is also bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
It's
were
not
always,
instant death, but it's...
yeah, I think blanks and normal wounds were more likely than any of those other things, and we kept...
No, they are.
and
I
we
think
kept-
there's like 2 frostbite and 1 bite on the dice.
And we kept rolling those all the time.
On a 12-sided die. So basically 1/4 of the time you should be getting the really bad ones.
And guess what? We got it like 50%
Half
of the
the
time.
time.
Yeah.
And we have 2 characters that were immune to bite spreads, and they never were with the characters that got bitten.
Nope.
Well, also, you know, like, the guy who doesn't roll exposure when fighting had to, like, just, and let me travel back to the place to do one thing real fast, bite.
No, it was, your guy got bitten because Tiv went over there and got bitten along the way.
Right, he got bitten along the way, and then the bite spread, and I rolled a bite again. Thankfully, there was no one there. Yeah, which is fine, because basically if you roll a wound, it still counts as a dead character. It's just you have like a chance to not roll a wound, and if you don't roll a wound, then you survive. It's better odds than.
Yeah.
But
more likely than not, it's going to spread.
Yeah.
But yes, we got horribly overridden by zombies, because we also had, if you fail the mission that we were currently on that round, all barricades get wiped and 10 zombies appear.
And you add more zombies than we could deal with.
Yeah.
And it's like, I did a whole bunch of searching to try and get gas to fill it, and it was just like, nope.
We had no luck on searching too. Like
Yeah,
No
we
gas
made
for you.
all noise on every plausible location. We filled up with noise, and we still didn't get enough gas to complete it.
Well, I think we had one decent searcher, and that was it.
It's true.
Out
We didn't get
of all
any
the characters we got.
And even so, that was so bad.
Yeah, we were certified. It was just certifiably bad the entire time, but still,
Yeah.
luck was not with us. As for me, I think the only other thing I did was, of course, with Bastion Frontier, where we managed to break into the Orc village after traveling there. After
Pretty
everything...
lucky that it was snowstorm.
Yes, it was snowstorm. We went at night again, and for some reason, like when you roll the weather, we somehow every time we're going for like night stealth missions, it's sort of like you roll snowstorm, and we're like, yes.
I really do. It's good and bad a little bit because you guys can't see, but then they can't see you either.
We broke in, rescued the half-orc that was our friend that was captured by them, and then used poor Tiv as a proxy for her to kill off the leader of the place. Because Tiv is a glass cannon. And he managed to cannon more than glass this time.
Barely. He ended with, like, what, 4 HP? And
Yes.
that was only because one of them stealth healing worded him.
Yes.
And how do you stealth healing word? Well, you say it basically while the swords are clashing. You mutter it real fast. And
Or you wait till
that's what I
Tools is
find.
distracting the person next to you so no one notices.
Well, that too. I figure it's a mixture of things. Like, that's why I had a roll, you know. It's just kind of like... Because normally you have to say things moderately, in a moderate volume, unless it specifically says otherwise, in my mind, for casting spells.
And I didn't need to get into a fight with all of them, which with my diplomacy and sizing them up didn't matter. I was planning on possibly having to murder them all.
Yeah,
because-
I would have gone to you after if Tiv went down. I would have gone to you and figured out what you were doing in the meantime. It's just, it wasn't necessary.
I was like, because it's like I was deadly serious when Tiv won. I'm like, I was kind of surprised you won.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically a challenge rating 6 creature versus a challenge rating. I keep saying that. A level 6 character, which is how I built him basically, versus a level 5 character. He was fighting uphill, but I figured you guys wouldn't mind cheating, which is why I thought that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I didn't expect you guys also to fight one-on-one fairly. I thought... Anyway, I thought you would do something else a little... I thought you would... Well, you did give him all the best equipment you had, though.
Yes, we decked him out with equipment, so he was much better than he was.
Yep. Also, you found out what happened with Wugarid.
Yep. He's the friendly neighborhood slime now.
Friendly neighborhood, like, mimic slime, basically.
Uh-huh. And
Not an actual mimic, but he just kind of can change into objects, I
And
decided.
I don't remember how I put it on my sheet, but I have a bag full of orc fingers to feed him. For a little treat.
Oh, right.
He'll have a taste for orc. No, that's not probably not.
God.
Yep. Kitty. Alright, so that was our week in gaming. Now it is time for our final segment of the day. The one that, like, no one ever really takes over. But that's fine. Consult the table, where you can
Happens every
ask...
now and then.
It does. We get a couple of questions now and then. It's very rare that we get a good question, but, you know, it happens occasionally, where folks come to us, ask us any kind of question related to tabletop of any kind, and we answer to the best of our abilities to help you out in your tabletop games. This could be anything from a CCG, tabletop, or RPG, or some kind of card game or board game. You got a question about something, and we can do our best to answer it for you. Our email is empty. We have an email, discussingtabletop@yahoo.com, which you can contact us. If you are here live in chat, you can, of course, talk to us right now. If you are unable to reach us live, you can reach us by, of course, leaving it in the description of the Discussing Tabletop video when it's up on my YouTube channel. Or you can reach us at my Discord or any of our Twitters. Any of them. All great ways to reach us. Yep.
Also, tweet us, tweet me, tweet Joe.
Yep.
Yes, give me a reason to actually use my Twitter.
Accurate. There we go. There's the Twitter accounts. And I probably should have done this earlier a couple of times. because there's a docket that we had today.
You need to get better at doing that first thing as well.
I set it up, but I keep forgetting to actually, like,
use
it, the command. Yeah.
Maybe I should. I'll try and remember too.
To docket.
In theory, I'm a mod, so I could.
Yes.
Well, I don't think you even have to be a mod to use the command. But anyway.
But docket's there. So, looks like we don't have any questions today, so thank you everyone who joined us for Discussing Tabletop. We will be back, of course, next week, same time, same location, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for some more tabletop news. Plenty of more to talk about, I'm sure of. Lots more exciting things. Of course, all three of us should be back together on Monday. We'll also probably, at least me and Wyrm will be back on both. I'll be his channel on Wednesday, and then back here for some Besem on Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow morning for some Civilization 6. I'm going to be playing an hour early for the morning stream. I'm going to let everybody know now. I'm going to be starting at 9 because I have to be somewhere at noon. That's not too far from my place, but that means I don't want to, end it early. So I'll just be doing some more Rise and Fall probably. I've invited people to do multiplayer with me on a Sunday morning, but I'll probably just be doing single player, it sounds like, because most people are busy. And it's way too early for my West Coast friends, but for my British friends, neither of them are, like... Ollie's just like, maybe, probably not. So
I mean, like, how early is early?
It would be 6 a.m. for you when I be going live.
So basically when I wake up. Got it.
Yes. So I guess not super, super early, but still pretty early. Yes. Anyway. So, why don't we go through the who are you guys, where can they find you, etc. kind of things. Why don't we start with, of course, Wyrm.
I am Diamond Wyrm. You can find me at Diamond Wyrm on Twitter or on my channel, twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm, where I stream most days at 4 o'clock, basically every day except Sundays and Tuesdays, because I do things those days. Mm-hmm. And check my Twitter for days where I might not do them for other reasons, but that happens from time to time. But yeah, which means I should be streaming later today at 4 as well. Yeah.
Okay.
That's me.
Joseph.
I promote you as usual.
Yeah, I've got that. You do have a Twitter, which it was in the chat. If you haven't already checked it, I did leave it down there.
Yes, people can tweet me if you like. I will respond.
That direction.
But I pretty much don't. No. I pretty much don't do anything without Matt.
Yes, pretty much. And as usual, I am Tantus Dracovin. You can find me here daily for at least one stream, if not multiple streams. Usually the morning stream, which is either at 9 or 10, depending on my schedule for the day. Most of the time, 10. You can find me on my YouTube channel, the Dracovin Empire, where you can check out all the VODs from everything that you can find here on the Twitch channel, plus some scripted content that I've been doing a little better at getting out a little bit more regularly. Not perfect, but better. I'm trying to get back to my regular schedule again, finally. I'm pushing a little bit effort towards it. Of course, you can find me at my Twitter and my Discord, which were linked in the course of the chat or linked below. And I do have Patreon if you want to give some extra support with some great rewards about doing things like playing some tabletop games with me, joining some video games, or even joining a role-playing game at some point in time, if you want to support me at those levels. As for social media, that's I said the social media. Yep, Twitter and Discord link below. And remember, you can subscribe to YouTube, follow and subscribe here. You can do the same for Wyrm, because that's help support for him. And we'll see you all here next week for more and exciting adventures and tabletop related news. So, bye everyone!
Bye!